Hey everyone, Timmy here with Turn 'em Sideways, and today I wanted to go ahead and talk about the newest MTG format to come along, Frontier. Some of you may know it as Contemporary, but it seems that Frontier is a name that's stuck in the recent craze. Now I'm making this video because I've noticed a lot of my favorite MTG YouTubers are talking about the format, and by a lot I mean most, if not all of the MTG YouTubers that are worth note are making videos about it. I'm going to reference a few more of them later on in my discussion, but I go ahead and check out your favorite go-to YouTubers and see what they've said about it. Now, the Frontier format reportedly originated in the land of the rising sun, so that's great. You can add Magic formats to the list of Japanese exports with cars, plastics, and tentacle porn. So all good things. The format is an extension of a recent standard, and that the sets that are legal are M15 and on due to the new border. Full disclosure, I didn't know there was a new border until Frontier came along, so I had to go back and look at my bulk rares from M15 and just be like, oh, there's a new little foil thing at the bottom. Cool. So anyway, the sets that are legal are Magic 2015, Khans of Tarkir, Fate Reforged, Dragons of Tarkir, Magic Origins, Battle for Zindi, Oath, Shadows, Eldritch. Everyone knew Emrakul was Come Moon, and Kaladesh, which, side note, Kaladesh is, for my money, one of the most enjoyable sets we've had in a very long time, and easily the best draft format I've ever been a part of. I hope Eighth Revolt is somewhat near as good, because Kaladesh has been, dollar for dollar, one of the most enjoyable formats, draft formats I should say, in a long time. Now, obviously, this is a non-rotating format, and that will only grow as more and more sets come down the pipeline. And a lot of us love that, given that a lot of us are also fearful of the heavy price drops that occur once something rotates out of standard. The sudden crashing in value of standard staples tends to hurt you in both the wallet and the feels. But that brings me to my first 2 points I wanted to bring up here, and I'm always going to do like a positive and a negative if I can. So, positive, you can play with your favorite and most likely expensive as all hell deck as soon as it rotates out of standard. So that's great. Like I just said, obviously. I remember when my mono black devotion rotated out of standard and I was heartbroken. Granted, the moment rotation happened, I had a modern legal deck, but as any of you will note, if I had taken that standard mono black devotion without any alterations into a modern event, I would have been laughed out of the building, and rightfully so. But instead, what I was left with was a pile of trade bait and some staples to figure out what I wanted to do with. Not to mention the crashing in value. Thoughtseize and Mutavault, they held their value fine. But anyone remember Night Veil Spectre? Pretty sure I spent like $11 on each of those, and they're like 80 cents right now on Card Kingdom. And Card Kingdom tends to be the pricier of the retailers there, so that speaks volume. But I mean, Frontier offers you a chance to play with your favorite decks while you figure out what you want to do in Standard. Because if you're like me, you don't just buy cards the second they come out. You wait and see what comes of the new meta. So, but that also leads into a negative. It's really the same couple of decks we've been seeing in Standard for the past couple of years. Some of the same strategies that we loathe, and they're pretty much in their exact form, maybe with only slight variants. I mean, it's just, this is a problem to me, but at the same time, me and my friends agree, it's because of the limited card pool. So hopefully it becomes less of a noticeable issue as time goes on. We'll have to see. So as I mentioned, I want to go ahead and go over some of the comments by some of the other MTG YouTubers here. Before I do, everyone make sure to hit up Dev at Strictly Better MTG if you haven't already. I'm a longtime fan and sub of his. Go ahead and give him some love because, one, he seems genuinely excited about the format, which is great because he's a guy that, he has a really good eye for seeing what will be enjoyable for everybody. Also, he pretty much predicted the format, so go ahead and give him some love there if you haven't. On to Desolator Magic, though. First and foremost, I want to be very clear about this. I'm also a fan of his. However, I have to respectfully disagree with something he said in his video about Frontier, and he said that it's probably, meaning its rise and everyone wanting it, so to speak, it's probably a, quote, small group of people pretending to be a large group of people. No, I don't think so. I live in a major U.S. city with about 15 stores that host events within an hour drive in any direction, and they're all hosting Frontier events right now, and they're firing off about 12 to 16 people. I don't go to all the stores, but I watch their Facebook pages. I see the posts, I see the pictures, and it seems to be big in here anyway. So I don't pretend for 1 second that my city is a large enough representation of the overall MTG world. But we also have to remember that Frontier was supposedly created by the largest TCG retailer and tournament body in Japan, which, at least in the early going, gives the format a hell of a player base to start. I've heard some reports saying that the format originated in a Midwestern state, but the evidence for it being in Japan just outweighs that, at least as far as I can find. But by all means, let me know if you have any articles or anything, because I'd love to read them. On to Travis Wu. Over on his page, he had easily the best point about the new format, and that's what happens when the novelty wears off. For those of you that don't know, Travis Wu is one of the best players you'll ever watch play the game, and he also speaks like an ancient Chinese wise man. He'll be rambling about goblins for 20 minutes and somehow weave it into self-discipline. It's actually kind of it's kind of a little intrusive. He should put up a warning before he learns us stuff. And we'll talk about this on a future tournament sideways as time comes. But his point was that, Modern's figured out. And one of the reasons why people are wanting a new format and wanting something exciting and new is because of the fact that Modern is figured out. If you don't play pretty much the same 8 decks, your DCI number might as well say buy round on it. So his point is, what happens once, Frontier becomes figured out? And he's right. It's a problem that's inherent with non-rotating formats. As much as people complain about Standard, even though we all kind of play it, honestly, the luxury is that the guy that won last year with Broken Strategy 1 can't come in and bring that deck again. So, I don't know. Reminds me of a couple points here I wanted to bring up. Positive. If this does continue to kick off and become the next prominent format that many are speculating it will, you'll have players that otherwise would never play competitively outside of Standard entering the fray. I mean, that's good. You have a higher accessibility to these prints. You can't not really compare the print runs of early Modern sets versus what we have today. So, as I'm trying to speculate on this new format, that's going to be the biggest factor in keeping it prominent for people. The prices will remain lower because of the fact that the cards were recently printed and printed in a large number. For example, I didn't want to play Modern early on when I got into Magic because I wasn't around in 8th edition, so I would have to buy certain cards on the secondary market, which are really expensive, whereas if you're there on the ground floor, you can get them when they're next to nothing or get them from a booster pack, so you have that luxury. For example, if you happen to play and just got your Blood Moons during Chronicles, then good for you, but someone that wants to jump in and use them has to actually buy them. And we're talking just 4 cards out of 60, and that's a good majority of maybe your budget at the time. So that's just something to consider there. Now, a negative, going back to prices, Commander players will have to maybe not get certain standard staples. I know people that only play Commander and will never touch a 60-card deck as long as they live. And what they do is they watch the prices and see what's going on. And when a standard staple falls out, they snatch them up because, let's be honest, in recent years, we've only had 1 or 2 cards from each set become Modern viable. Sometimes one or two in a set, honestly. But if Frontier becomes as prominent as people are hoping that it does, then cards that will just go straight from Standard into Frontier will pretty much hold their value for the most part if everything goes to plan for these people. And then Commander players that just want to play Commander might not actually ever get those cards, at least not initially. That's just something to consider there. I guess the question comes down to, should you play Frontier? And there are a couple ways to go about thinking about that. I guess most importantly would be, have you played Standard since 2015? Do you still have a Standard deck since 2015 together and completely Frontier legal? Then do it. You have nothing to lose. You don't have to put any more money into it, so why not, I guess is my argument there. If you're currently playing Standard, no question, obviously, just slide on over to a Frontier event, and there you go. Now, if you're looking, to play a tournament format, but you've never done it before and you're looking at a non-rotating format, then I guess I'll give you this question. How long do you plan to play and how much are you willing to put into it? That does matter here. With Modern, you can spend a very pretty penny, as many of us do, and You get a deck that'll never rotate in one of the largest formats we have, but you gotta wonder, are you safe in your investment? As we can see now, Modern is kind of falling from the wayside. I know many of you will not agree, but at the same time, there wouldn't be such a push for Frontier if Modern wasn't irking many people. The prices, the meta, so on and so forth. So if that's something you have to consider, I mean, how do you want to spend your money? How long do you want to be into it? If you're looking to play for the next, X amount of years, and this does in fact become the next big format, then getting in on the ground floor is a great way to solidify your place in the format. The prices of these singles will never rise as high as the ones in Modern, given the larger print runs that I mentioned, but they will go up slightly. That's just inherent of a format, especially the fetches of Frontier. You need them if you're going to play in this format. They are essential. But snatching up the staples now will allow you, mobility through different strategies later on. So those are just my opinions. I'm just a Timmy. You know how I am. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm clearly not a YouTuber by trade. This is just something I wanted to talk about. I'm going to do some more videos in the future here. Sorry for any crude editing or crude mic skills. I'm learning as I go. But thanks for listening, guys, and take it easy.